To ask questions during the event, press the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Look at questions that have already been asked and use the thumbs up symbol to upvote them. If you don't see a question like yours, submit your own question. Questions will be read aloud and answered by the presenters. Thank you for joining us for today's campus conversation. The event will begin in 2 minutes. To ask questions during the event, press the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Look at questions that have already been asked and use the thumbs up symbol to upvote them. If you don't see a question like yours, submit your own question. Questions will be read aloud and answered by the presenters. Thank you for joining us for today's campus conversation. The event will begin in 1 minute. To ask questions during the event, press the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Look at questions that have already been asked and use the thumbs up symbol to upvote them. If you don't see a question like yours, submit your own question. Questions will be read aloud and answered by the presenters. Thank you for joining us. Now, Chancellor Mel Netzhammer.
Hey, Van Cougs. Thank you for spending some time with us this afternoon. We have so much to cover. I am so appreciative of you being here today and spending time with us to talk about what things are going to look like in the fall. Two things that I want to do before we begin. The first is to acknowledge what a tough year this has been for all of you. I know this has been a struggle. It has been a struggle for our faculty and staff as well. And the fact that we have persevered, that today is, as the last day of classes, means we have been one full year in pandemic mode, is just, it's been tough. And I know that WSU knows that, and we look forward to better times for everyone. The second, and on a much more positive note, I know some of you who are on this Zoom meeting are graduating this year, and so congratulations. This is great. I'm sorry your last year had to be this way, but we are so proud. We are so excited for you, and we look forward to what's ahead and staying in touch. And I do promise you that while you get a drive-through graduation, that when it is safe and when we can bring people back to campus, we will find an opportunity to celebrate together on campus, even if it has to be a year from now. We'll call it a reunion, and all get back together. As we talk about the fall, people are anxious. and people are excited. Most people are anxious and excited, and that is one of the things that we really have to think about. And the fact that there's still so many unanswered questions just increases everyone's anxiety, including my own. And so we are very conscious of that, and trying to keep you posted on the latest information we have, and um, help manage that anxiety, and also really celebrate the fact that we're excited that we will be able to be back face to face again in the fall semester. Um, I think one of the biggest frustrations that people are having is that we have to plan for what is likely to be the case in the fall, and not what we're feeling today or what we were feeling in January when we put the schedule out. And so that that's a balancing act, and we need to work with that, and we are. We are in contact with the governor's office almost every day about what things will look like, what the projections are, what his expectations will be for Washington State University and for higher ed in the state. And so we are using our best educated sense of what is likely to be the case in August, and we are planning for that scenario, knowing that it is possible that some aspects of that could change. Um, we have a lot to cover today, and I am just going to dive right in with perhaps the two most controversial pieces that we will be talking about today. Um, WSU announced on Wednesday that proof of a COVID vaccination will be required for all students who will have on-campus experiences starting in the fall. There will be opportunities for medical, religious, or personal exemptions. Um, I don't have the answers to how those will be coordinated at the moment, but we wanted to get the news out to students before the semester ended. So we will now expect that students will be vaccinated in the fall unless they have one of these exemptions. And we will work on how you document that and how you document an exemption over the next few weeks. And we will get that information to you as quickly as we have it. We do know that documentation will be required by November 1st. Why that date? You all know that better than I do. Pre-registration starts the next week, and the way that we monitor these things is through registration holds. And so the idea is that students would have to document their vaccination or their exemption prior to registration for next semester. I know people have very mixed feelings about this, and prior to this decision, it was about 50-50, people calling to say, I will not attend unless vaccinations are required, and if vaccinations are required, I will not attend. And so we are managing that. That is why personal exemptions, one part of why personal exemptions are included, but that is all to be worked out as we move forward. I think it's important for our students to know as well that this that WSU expects that this requirement for a vaccination will be extended to faculty and staff as well. And so the same exemptions apply, but we want you to know that this will be a community expectation for everyone who is in person on our campus in the fall semester. And just yesterday, shortly after the announcement came out, two things happened. The American College Health Association recommended that all colleges and universities require the vaccination in advance of the fall. So I think you can expect that more and more colleges and universities will require that. And in his press conference yesterday, Governor Inslee thanked Washington State University for implementing this requirement, for being a leader in the state in this area, and really recommending that all colleges and universities in the area, in the state, do the same thing. So you may see some changes as well with other institutions. So we will have more information about that. You may have some questions. I don't know if I'll be able to answer them, but we will do our best. The second item is that 1 week from today, May 6th and 7th, the May 7th is a week from today, the Board of Regents will consider a 2.5% tuition increase for next year. If that is approved, it means that WSU students, the majority of WSU students, will see about $130 increase in their tuition each semester. Students receiving financial aid will see that tuition increase factored into their financial aid. The S&A fee, services and activities fee, will remain flat for next year. That was a recommendation that our students made. One of the things that we are working on is to make sure that the revenue that's generated from a tuition increase goes directly back to serve students. And so President Schultz has made a commitment that revenue generated from the increase, if it's approved, will bolster services that support mental health, will address food security and other basic needs for our students, and will be used to increase funding in a number of our tuition waiver programs. And so we are hoping that even with a tuition increase, that those dollars will go back to directly to serve students. One of the things that I like to talk about, I think it's important. Any tuition increase would be painful in this year, and I understand that. In the past, I've been in higher education for way too many years now, but in the past, tuition increases happened periodically, but those tuition increases were often 10 or 15%. And so the idea that there are much smaller measured increases in tuition is, for most students, going to be better than tuition increases where we have nothing for a couple of years, and suddenly, because expenses have changed, we come in with a 10% tuition increase or something like that. And so it's painful. It's painful to put in place, and it is generally the best way to a rational tuition policy. And I think that is what is behind this increase this year, and the benefit that we are really going to direct this back towards supporting our students in very significant ways. I also, we have really worked hard. There was a question that we got that I'll answer now, that around expenses and what expenses looked like for us. We were not on campus, and we saw some minimal savings as a result of that. On the other hand, our technology expenses skyrocketed over the last year, and the need to pivot to a different form of instruction it changed significantly in how we appropriated our budget last year. But the big thing that you should think about when you think about WSU's budget is that over the years, this changes a little bit, but I checked the figure for last year. 90% of our expenses are salaries and wages. So our employees and benefits. So it is human resources that are the overwhelming part of our budget. People like to think that it's buildings, it's facilities, and the state pays for those separately. And I'll talk about that in just 1 second. And so it is really our tuition dollars, our state appropriation largely goes to our faculty, staff, student workers, and all the things that we need to do human-wise to manage our expenses. And those really barely changed at all last year. And so we didn't see this big decrease in expenses, and we won't see that again coming up this year. So that's the state of tuition. I am pretty certain that is not what you wanted to hear from me this morning, but I want to be honest, and I want to give you the reasons behind it. The Board of Regents sets tuition for Washington State University, and as I said, they will make that decision for the system next week. I wanted to talk about a little bit about enrollment. We dropped about 100 students last year, which was much better than most students, most universities across the country. We appreciated your commitment to staying with us during a very difficult time, and we can manage that. What I wanted to talk to you about today is the fall. And I know that a lot of people are just sort of holding on to decide until they have the most information about whether they'll register as a new student or decide to return as a current student based on what we have going in the fall. And I totally understand that people have been waiting for the last year, have been waiting to the last minute to decide where they're going to go and whether they're going to go. And I appreciate that. We are trying to provide for you the best possible experience that we can provide in the fall. And one of those pieces is knowing how many students we're going to have and how many students we're going to have in each of our classes. And so if a class is full, today we have the option of adding a second section to that class. August 1st, we don't really have that possibility anymore. If a class is under-enrolled and in danger of being canceled, we have the option of doing some work to try to bolster enrollments in those classes so that it doesn't get canceled. Our ability to do that on August 15th, right before we start, is really limited. And so you can help us provide the best possible experience for our students if you think about what you need to take in the fall, what your plans are, and register during this registration period now to so that your enrollment is set for the fall, knowing that you may need to change that, as is always the case, even in the best of semesters. The last thing I want to say before I turn it over to my colleagues is this has not been a period of a lot of great news, and we got some great news this week. The Washington State Legislature approved a $52.6 million investment in WSU Vancouver in a new life sciences building. As I was just saying earlier, the state funds our buildings, and so this we have not had a new building in a decade, and it was really exciting. The one floor of the building will have new teaching labs for our students. A second floor of the building will have research labs for our faculty and our graduate students. And so we are just so excited that we have this project. It is sitting on the governor's desk. I am very optimistic that Governor Inslee will sign it, and that as soon as December, we will have construction right past the engineering and computer science building happening on campus with a new building. And so that was just really great news that will serve our students and our faculty for many, many years to come. So thank you all for your support as we did that. Our students were very important in that, and the governor still talks about when he came to campus how important this building was to our students and how great they were with him in advocating for it. So this is something that you all are very much a part of as we bring it to campus. All right, we have a number of people to speak with you today and to answer questions. I am going to turn it over first to our current and newly elected student body president, Mondo Antonino, sorry, Mondo, who has just been, it's been a joy to work with our students in ASWSUV this year. And we wanted to give him an opportunity to talk to our students today. So Mondo.
Thank you very much, Mel. It's safe to say this year has been like none other. And if you're anything like me, this week has been one heck of a busy week, finishing up finals and getting prepared for quizzes next week. And please take some time to relax and charge after the finals. We're so close to wrapping up, and I wanted to congratulate all of you for pushing yourselves this fall. And as we head into finals, make sure to take some time for yourself. Drink lots of water, get lots of rest. I know how important studying for finals can be, but remember you are also important, so please take care of yourselves. Looking back, we have managed to be successful and push ourselves through so many challenges. It has been an honor to serve as the 30th ASWCB president, and I'm so excited to serve as the 34th ASWCB president. Thank you all who voted and who actively participated in this year's election. I'm so grateful to have the chance to work with ASWCB last year and advocate for students. ASWCB has been able to accomplish a lot, from a book lending program that will be started next year in partnership with the WSU Library, to sending resource postcards to all of our students, reminding them that we haven't forgot about you. And not to mention the involvement boxes that have been such a hit with all of our students. And as we wrap up this year, please don't forget to utilize the resources that WSU Vancouver has to provide, such as the library, health services, food pantry, anything. If you're like me, you're gonna send your essays to the writing center and you might get some critiques, but thank goodness for that writing center. And as we look forward to fall, we have more and more things to be excited for. The new building, being back in person, and seeing each other once again. I'm truly excited to see you all on campus next year. I know it's definitely gonna take some adjustments, phasing back into our new normal, but I'm excited and I feel like this is the right time to do so. With that being said, I'll give it back over to Mel.
Thanks, Mondo. So what are you hearing from students right now? What are their biggest challenges? What are they excited about? What are they looking forward to?
Yeah, so us students have been able to become masters at distance learning, overnight becoming pros with Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Slack, Blackboard, Canvas, so many different platforms. We have been able to connect in new ways, such as breakout rooms, virtual environments, but it's definitely been hard to stay motivated this year. And those being on a laptop's 24/7, I'll tell you, there's no better feeling than closing your laptop for the day. One of the biggest successes, however, is to see how our classmates have been able to support each other throughout this year, through clubs offering survival kits to the members, OSI, SAB, and ASWCB teaming up and providing survival kits with healthy snacks and stress relief items, but also an environment of supporting and uplifting each other in our classrooms. I can't tell you how many times we've been able to just bond over our experiences throughout COVID in a Zoom chat room out of all places. So I've really appreciated that. And throughout all this year, like I said, we've managed to stay strong and be successful. And while success may look different to everybody else, I would definitely say that we've made it this fall, and that alone is success.
Yeah, thanks, Mondo. You know, a few weeks back, I know that ASWSUV, on behalf of the student body, sent a letter to the Council of Faculty Representatives, and what was really an open letter to the faculty. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that and what was behind it and how you're feeling about it.
Absolutely. So as you may all know, ASWCB works to better the lives of our students and representatives. as representatives, we were concerned about the well-being of our students and their academic success, given how the COVID environment has negatively impacted some of our students. And we've definitely heard from our students that it's time to come back. And with vaccines being more available, we had high hopes for next fall. So at the time, before creating the letter, we saw the rough breakouts of how many classes are going to be in person. And we were a little disappointed to see that we lacked some of the engagement of in-person opportunities that we were expecting. And with that, our Senate really sprung into action, getting input from our students, and then wrote a letter and passed it within the same week, addressing campus admin, asking for an increase of in-person opportunities for next fall. And we wrote this letter knowing the great importance of in-person learning, but the seriousness of COVID and the pandemic, but understanding the desire of caution as we move forward. And we were really pleased to see that our letter was well received from admin. And now we have some more in-person opportunities for next fall.
You know, you and Evans are, at least in my experience, the only ASWSUV leaders to get reelected, to even run for reelection. And so what, you have a year under your belt. What are the two priorities that you would say that you have for the fall semester? What are the two things you would like to accomplish?
Just two? That's a hard one.
You only get to do two because we've got so many other people to speak.
Well, understand. So I know for sure I want to be crucial, and Evans and the ASWSV want to be crucial in making sure our students are welcome back next campus in a safe manner. So anything we can do to provide input, experience about how that should be done in a safe and equitable manner. And then I'm going to cheat a little bit. We created a strategic plan that had many different focuses for our students. So for my second priority, it's going to be increasing and continuously working on a strategic plan for ASWCV that includes its food insecurities, mental, physical access to resources, cultivating community, sustainability practice, and so much more that I am just truly excited to be able to work on with Evans and next year's ASWCV leadership team.
That's great. There have been ASWSUV groups that have developed strategic plans in the past, but none of the same people are around the next year to implement them. And so they tend to go away. And so it'll be really nice that the planning that you did last year that you'll be able to do next year. Mondo, thank you so much for your leadership over the last year. And I look forward to working with you and the entire team as we go into the fall semester. I am going to turn it over now to two of our vice chancellors. We've been receiving a lot of questions in advance about what does the fall semester look like in classroom, outside of the classroom. And so I am first going to turn it over to Dominic Thomas, who is our Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs and Enrollment, and then to Rennie Christopher, who is our Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs. Dominic.
Thank you, Mel. And for our students watching this, congratulations for another great and successful year. A lot of questions have been asked about the fall experience, and from the student side, it will be a masked one, it will be a distance one, it will be a safe one, as safe as we can make it. And so that is part of our move toward returning to campus. It's not going to be a switch, it's going to be a dial, and we're moving that dial appropriately as we come closer to the fall and hopefully to a full return to campus. There's a lot of questions about the type of events that will be going on, the type of services. And so we have a plan on events that we will be leveraging our outdoor spaces. We'll be leveraging space and the safety that we provided for some of the things that are ongoing now for those events and services. Our gym is open in limited capacity. We have some outdoor trips that are meetups and limited capacity, and we expect those to be expanded upon in the fall. Some of the services that folks are used to receiving, both in person and remote, we have plans on maintaining both of those modalities for engaging and accessing services. That's, for example, in our counseling, and our financial aid. There may be some limitations on that in our health services, but we will still be offering those. And so what you may see in some of those services is a requirement of uh, setting up a time that there may be fewer drop-ins, but we will be moving that dial slowly and returning to a greater and expanded number of resources. The other big question that folks have asked is, what about classes that are in person and then soon after or right after even having a remote instruction course? And so we've made plans to have spaces on campus that are private, or as private as we can make them, that we have monitors for spacing, for noise, that we have access to power, that we have these centralized locations on campus where students can attend their remote instruction course right after or right before an in-person class, and try to make it as seamless as possible. And so we'll be monitoring those resources that we've laid out and seeing the progression of that and the student usage, and respond accordingly to those needs, so that if there is a greater need, we will expand those type of resources. And if students have found other ways, or we find out that many students don't have that gap or that need, then we'll shift those resources elsewhere. But we need the student voice. We will continue to listen. We will continue to respond. And that is what we do, and that's what we're here for. There are several other questions about the vaccination requirement that have come in. And and Mel mentioned it, but I'll just say that November 1 date and the rationale for it, and hopefully and ideally we're asking folks to get that all finished up before the start of school, and that we have resources in our health services that can point people to the right direction and get all that stuff done over the summer. We don't want to encumber you with more work to do while you're studying and doing that in the fall. So we're strongly encouraging students, our prospective students and our returning students, to get their vaccinations and or exemptions done far in advance, because we really want you to be successful in the classroom, engaging with your classmates and your fellow Cougs, and really just enjoying your experience. So I believe there are several other questions, but we may address them through my colleagues, and I'll leave it up to Ashley to fill in the blanks on some others that may come our way. And with that, I will hand it back to you, Mel, or you, Rennie.
Thanks, Dominic. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for being with us today, or if anybody's tuned in later to watch the recording, to have you with us in that format. So I want to echo what Mel and Mondo and Dominic have all said, which is that safety is one of our major priorities for the fall. So we want to protect everyone's safety while providing a robust in-person experience in order to give students the best learning opportunities possible while keeping everyone safe as possible. So we are working with limited classroom capacity. One of the things we pride ourselves on at the university is that we have a lot of small classes, but that doesn't set us up very well to work with distancing in the classes. So we have set out a plan that classes with 30 or fewer students will be all in person, while classes with 31 to 50 students will be in a hybrid mode. And classes with more than 50 students will be all remote. And so a question that was submitted before the webinar started was about raising class caps. We probably will not be raising class caps in a way that would affect the mode of delivery. That is to say, we wouldn't change a class capped at 30, because that would move it from an all in-person class to a hybrid class. And faculty are, working up their syllabi and how their pedagogy is going to be for their classes. So that would require a great deal of work on the part of faculty to change the mode of delivery. If students are on wait lists for classes that the caps aren't going to be raised, they should work with their advisors to look for alternatives and what they can do. Our expectation is that students will attend classes that are either the all in-person classes or classes that have an in-person component, that they will attend those classes in person. any student who cannot attend in person can go through the accommodation process through the Access Center. Another question that came in is about class sessions being recorded. And that is at the discretion of the instructor. So some classes will have recorded class sessions that would be available to students, and other classes might not. So you will learn that from your instructor in the course. My colleague Dominic talked about the situation where a student might have a mode of delivery sandwich. You might have an all in-person class, first session of the day, then an all remote class, and then a hybrid class where one day you might be physically in the class and another day you might not be. And as he noted, we are going to be providing spaces with everything that students need to go to those spaces to participate in the online classes that they need to be in. And I would also add that for students who are completely unable or unwilling to attend any in-person components, there is an option for you as well, which is that you could do a 1 semester change of campus to the global campus and do all your coursework online for this semester. And I would just also ask everyone to remember that the situation with the pandemic is dynamic. It is constantly changing. We are constantly responding to that changing situation. We follow the State Department of Health guidelines, and State Department of Health largely follows the Centers for Disease Control guidelines. So if you see anything change before the semester starts or during the course of the semester, that's because we are responding to an evolving situation and the evolving guidelines from the Department of Health. So I have repeatedly been asking faculty to be flexible with students, and now I would like to ask students to try to keep a flexible mindset and realize that more changes may be coming. And I would ask you all to, just fervently hope for a spring semester that would look as much like a normal semester as possible. In order to make that happen, we all have to do our best with all of the guidelines regarding masking, distancing, hand washing, vaccination. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Rennie. It is now my pleasure to turn this whole meeting over to Ashley Huang. Ashley is going to moderate, take your questions. Please continue to submit them if you have them. We have some previously submitted questions. Ashley is a senior and she is our lead student ambassador. Ashley, we are so grateful that you're joining us today, and take it away.
Thank you for having me here. Okay, so just like what Mel said, continue putting your Q&A questions down below, and we'll try to get to as many as possible. So starting with our first question, just curious on how parking would work if we only have one in-person class. Will there be a price reduction, and how would that price work?
So I'll just answer that one. I was going to say let me go first, but I'll just answer it. One of the things to remember is, or to know, you'd have no way of knowing this to remember it. Our parking revenue was down 90% this year. That should not surprise you in the least. People weren't parking on campus. Parking is an auxiliary. It's meant to pay for itself, parking lots and things like that. And so our ability to continue parking the way we did it this year is really limited. And so we are looking at what the cost of passes will be and where those passes will be for which lots. But one of the things that is really important is that we have the day lots, and I would really suggest that if you are only taking one class, not to buy a parking pass for the semester, but to buy just a day pass when you come to campus. We want this to be as easy on students as possible, knowing what we're up against. And so I think that's probably the way that is going to serve you the best.
Thank you. So for our next question, I heard that the cafeteria is going to be closed next year. What plans do you have for offering food on campus?
So I am going to start this one too, and then I will turn it over to Dominic because he talks about food much better than I do. You are correct. The food service, like parking, is an auxiliary, and we simply don't have a way to get it back and operating in the fall semester. We have gotten a bunch of questions about food carts, not just for this meeting, but for many meetings. That just sounds a lot easier than it is. We have been in contact with food cart vendors. We will remain in contact with food cart vendors, but we are generally not a big enough market for their success. And so one of the things that I would tell you is that Clark College tried to include food carts for a couple of years on its campus when they were 3 and 4 times our size. And it was still very difficult for them to have a financial model that made it work for these vendors. And so it is, we will continue to explore that as an option. It is unlikely. What is more likely is that we will put refrigerators into the bookie and create an opportunity for some kind of grab and go experience for food within the bookie, so that students will be able to get fresh food there and deal with eating at through that way. So we have a plan to make that happen. Dominic, was there something that you would want to add?
Yeah, beyond the expanded opportunities at the bookie for food and negotiating that partnership, I am proud, with the help of our SNA fee committee and the amazing donorship that we've gotten this year, and I shout out my colleagues in advancement for their work. But in the food pantry, we were able to commandeer additional space this year, as well as purchase a deep freezer and a refrigerator. So we'll have fresh food events on a regular basis, as well as in our weekly packages for students. So those students who utilize the food pantry will see a greater number of options, and I think better for it for our campus and having this expanded resource. And so that this is part of our continuing to listen to students. We've considered looking at, how do we partner with DoorDash or Uber Eats and other things like that. It's really going to be a communication and partnership with students, because there's an expense to students and having those services that may preclude some people from participating or engaging in it. But those are things that we need to have those conversations about and see what that student need is. So all of this will be progressive as we go throughout the semester and our eventual, again, full return to campus.
Thank you for those answers. Our next question is, there's so many uncertainties going on through COVID. What would happen if there was an outbreak on campus?
So I'll speak to that just a little bit with the protocols that will remain in place, at least for the foreseeable future, and we will continue to adjust as our state situation changes. But with the masking and distancing that we'll have in the classrooms and outside of it, that we anticipate, if there is an outbreak of some kind, that with the majority of our students being vaccinated and couple along with that our staff and faculty, that we wouldn't be in a situation where we would need to shift greatly without a county health ordinance or communication and support from them. So that the steps that we're taking now are to prevent this exact thing from happening. And so through education, through outreach, through opportunity for vaccination and maintaining these protocols, we hope that we wouldn't be in the situation at all, but that if we were, we would take the actions necessary. And that may be identifying folks who have exemptions and having them precluded from coming to campus for a certain period of time, or engaging in some other more restrictive and kind of a phase back type of behavior. But we're going to do that in consultation with our county health partners.
Thank you. Another question that we have are, because of the limited spaces that are available for in-person classes, about 31 to 50 students, how will events on campus look?
So I spoke a little bit about that earlier, but just to clarify that we are hoping, and again, many of our events are put on by students and student leaders. And so we want to equip them with the tools to have safe events. And so if that is shifting some of our events to outdoor venues and looking at other ways to make events happen, we want students to be able to see other students and engage at a greater level than we have seen in the past year. And so that we're going to be investing in resources, and students have been amazingly creative and still connecting, still engaging, and still providing leadership for other students in a remote way. And that we hope that with a step towards us being closer together in person, that we can expand some of those events, but they will be limited. And it may be an event that would have 100 people may only have 20, and that you'd have to register in advance, and there's very limited space. And so communication will be key, and students signing up on time and early, even more so than any event that we've had in the past. And that may be a good thing for our campus, and having students really be aware and be attentive. And I hope that there is a desire and a hunger for folks to engage with each other and engage in events whenever we have anything.
Thank you.
I would just add that I'm really excited. Our first tours, face-to-face tours, are back today, and so it felt to me like spring, that there's some things that are happening.
Yeah, these are all like first steps to getting a little bit back to normal, and so it's all very exciting. So another question that we have is specifically for vaccines. So will people be able to opt out because they don't want to have the vaccine, or specifically don't believe in the validity of the vaccines?
So let me just say that we will inevitably get a lot of questions about the personal exemption. I think people are pretty clear about a medical exemption and a religious exemption. We expect a ton of questions. I don't have answers for you yet, but I can tell you that we're not going to be coming up with a list that says, these are the good reasons, these are the bad reasons, right? That something like that is not going to work. Personal exemptions are supposed to be about a matter of personal conscience, and we're hoping that people will consider it that way, and also understand, as Dominic was just pointing out, that there may be some consequences as well to choosing not to get the vaccine. But we are not going to be developing lists of what counts and what doesn't count. We are not going to be expecting you to write an essay about why you won't be taking the exam. We're going to really try to put something in place that honors what it means to ask for a personal exemption, and really hope that people get the vaccine as well, because we want to get everyone back on campus, and we want to protect those people who truly can't take the vaccine.
Can I let everybody know I got my second shot last week? I'm really happy about it. I'm vaccinated.
Thank you all. This is a personal question for me. There has been a lot of things that have been coming out with like the CDC about people with vaccinations and like the different kinds of guidelines that are with them now. Some of them does mention about not like you don't have to wear a mask if you're around other people that are vaccinated. Is that something that you will foresee for the campus next during the fall?
We might all answer that a little bit differently. The umbrella thing that I would say is that we take our guidance from the governor's office and the local health department. They take their guidance primarily from the Centers for Disease Control. And so the overall, the work that we do will be guided by the scientific guidance that we get from those organizations. And I think that the expectation is that people will be masked on campus. What does that look like? Would it be possible for us at some point in the fall to do a smaller version of our back to school barbecue or something like that, where people would need to take their masks off to eat, or as their DoorDash is getting delivered, how is that going to look? I don't know that we know that entirely yet, but I will ask Dominic and Rennie to sort of give their sense of what that potentially looks like.
I would just briefly say that, of course, at some point, we're all going to go to being unmasked. I mean, knock on wood, that is what we see, and what the data and the all of the research tells us is that we will get there. Will we get there in the fall is the only question, and that CDC will have weekly. I mean, if you've gone on their website, it's refreshing on a constant basis, and so some of that, in terms of practice and policy, takes time. And so that if there's something on August 23rd that says the CDC recommends this, you may not see it in action for another 3-4 weeks or what have you within the state. And so there's a ton of reasons for it. We may see a place where there's going to need to be boosters for all the variants and what have you. And so the approach that we're taking in working with our local government is being able to take that guidance and that data and then apply it in terms of a practical way for our students in the safest way that we can. And many times it's not going to be the day that the CDC updates their website.
Yeah, I really, really agree with what Dominic just said and appreciate that perspective. And I would just add that the current guidance, there's a big difference between outdoors and indoors. And the guidance for people who have been vaccinated is about people meeting other vaccinated people in small groups. And a class of 30 people doesn't qualify as a small group by what the CDC guidelines are. So I anticipate that we will at least begin the semester with those requirements still in place, and we'll see how it evolves throughout the semester.
Okay, next question. Cases are currently rising in Clark County. So at what point will there be a final revision to returning to in-person learning in the fall?
So yes, cases are rising in Clark County. We're nearing the threshold for being in phase 3. And it is April still. And so my hope, I think many people's hope, is that rising case count will be overtaken as more and more people become vaccinated, and will start to decline again in May, and will continue to steadily decline until August.
And not just our hope, it's really our expectation. That is the guidance we're getting from the governor's office. That is the guidance that we're getting from all of the groups. If something were to change, one of the things that happened last uh, last summer that I'm still upset about is that we did a student forum exactly like this one on a Tuesday and showed pictures of what your classrooms were going to look like in the fall semester. And the very next day, WSU announced that we would be moving to all remote for the fall semester. So we have to be able to pivot like that, but the evidence is strong at the moment that the guidance from the governor or from the CDC is not going to be that we would go fully remote in the fall semester because of the vaccination rate, because of the mental health issues that we have talked about in other forums. That I would say that the face-to-face experience is just very, very likely for the fall semester.
Thank you. Our next question is, since there weren't student ID cards given in person and this year was fully online, how do we get a student ID card in preparation for the upcoming fall semester?
Happy to answer this one, in that you can go on our Cougar Center webpage as well as My WSU, and if you click the link through, you'll have to end up logging in through My WSU. But you can upload a photo of yourself, and we mail your cards now. That will be a standard practice, even with a return to campus. And this is for the ease of our new students and returning students, lost IDs, what have you. This is the way we've done it for the past year, and students have enjoyed it. It's been a smoother process, and it does limit the amount of lines that happen on the first day of school when folks are wanting their IDs. So that won't be an issue this fall, nor was it last fall.
Thank you. So that is all the questions that I have for you all today. So I'll pass it all over to Mel.
Sorry about that. Thank you all very much for participating. I really appreciate everything that you've done to serve each other, to help support each other during this last year. It's been hugely important, and just as your chancellor, reaffirming to see the sense of community that we have at WSU Vancouver. It's overwhelming, and there's no other institution that I would like to be at, and I mean that absolutely sincerely. Thank you. Some of you will be taking summer classes. Some of you we will see in the fall. Some of you we will see during drive-through graduation next week. I look forward to seeing all of you before too long, and thank you all so much. Know that we see you, we hear you, we listen to your feedback. You may not always get the answer you want from us, but your voice in how we lead this institution is absolutely critical. And so I'm just so grateful that you're active in letting us know what you're thinking and what you would like to see. Thank you all so much. Go Van Cougs and go Cougs.